It would really change an entrance to our community if we did that Erdmann property. And then the other property that we'll talk about in a minute, we don't have a lot of commercial property that's available right now, and there's some interest out there. And we've got to have inventory. And so what LBIC is requesting is some assistance with that, with the interest. We'll come back every July and review that. That gives accountability. What are you guys doing? And then we'll flip that. And then down the road, once we sell this, there might be another opportunity that comes down the road. If that happens and LBIC needs some assistance, then we'll come to the council and then you guys will choose on the merit of the development whether you want to participate or not. So that's essentially the request.
I know we're both dabbling into the two projects together, but Erdmann doesn't fit in the TIF, does it?
It's not currently, but what I would suggest, and I've suggested this to Jason, that could be put into a TIF district. It should be put into a separate TIF district. And because it is, I'll call it underutilized property, I believe there's a better chance than not that we could get a blighted designation. I've worked with.
What's that?
That means that if it's considered blighted, it's an underutilized piece of ground. And a typical TIF term is a 20-year tax increment financing where you collect the county, the city, and the school portion for 20 years. Well, with a blighted, there's no sunset until such time that you pay off whatever that obligation is that you have for the property. So that would be my recommendation for this property. Maybe we'll get it done in 20 years and we'll release it, but at least that option exists for more challenging properties.
Does that border a TIF, or is it gonna be,
Well,
would it be an island?
Looking at the map, our urban renewal map, I believe a lot of it does already fall in the current. There's some of it that doesn't, but we've also talked about, our current TIF sunsets. Last year we can collectively was 27, so that's running out. We've talked about, as projects come up, we've talked about whether or not extending our current urban renewal area or go in the direction of just creating specific TIF areas as projects come up. So even though part of it may fall in our current TIF now, I think it's probably better for us to look at what Mark has described, because we would anticipate quite a bit of development and increase in value in that area, and to capture all that in 3 years isn't going to happen.
Okay.
So to create a new TIF area is probably our best route.
I will echo Mark's sentiments about this new way of proposing these projects rather than writing a blank check to the LBIC for $200,000 or whatever the previous agreement was a couple of years ago. This new way of bringing these projects forward is a result of that's what Mark is familiar with and the way other towns do it, but also some feedback from you all. When I first started as mayor, there was some questions as to the transparency of LBIC and those kinds of things. And this is about as transparent as we can get. Every project will come before council for approval and judged on an annual basis.
Well, transparency is half of it, but accountability is the other half.
Yeah.
If I'm back here in 3 years and we're still talking about the same property, then you guys ought to be listening in what's going on.
Yeah.
I'd echo the mayor's comments, but also this project specifically, is in my ward, and we all drive past it. It's on the way into town. I think this is an excellent location to do some improvement.
Mhm.
So I would support that.
And transparency is good because I can't believe probably a handful of people since this word has gotten out, probably a handful of people who commented to me that I see the city's buying the Erdmann property. I said, no, LBIC. So it's hard to make people understand that distinction between the two.
A little bit of my history is Erdmannville trailer number 4 after high school.
Yeah,
A little history
My
there.
daughter lived in one of the small houses is.
Would you like to buy it for, memorial?
I think I'll let her slide.
And that's correct, right, Mark? We're not talking piecemeal, like you say, it's one developer for this area.
We're gonna develop the entire property, or find a developer for the property. And the neat thing is, when you create this kind of awareness of our planning for development, Jason, I, and Rob met with the developer from North Sioux last week, which is developer number 4, who wants to come into our community under the right circumstance and develop high-density housing, and we need it.
I think one thing to keep in mind on this is if we develop that high density and bring a lot more people in, we need to pave a little path back to the trail there, because people already drive that gravel road, and it would just be logical to put a concrete path there.
Motion approving entering into an agreement with the LBIC where the city of Lamar's makes interest payments on a loan secured by the LBIC for the purchase of Erdmann Enterprises LLC property.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to the Lamar's Business Initiative Corp. request number 2. Through the years, the city of, I don't need to read
It's the
that
same
again.
wording.
The LBIC is undertaking the purchase of approximately 2.83 acres on the southwest end of Lamar's, owned by Randall DeYoung. The LBIC will be securing financing through local banks for the purchase, but are also asking the city for assistance. The city assistance would be in the form of interest payments. The interest rate on the loan will begin at 6.45% and will be adjusted annually. The estimated annual interest is $31,927.50. The city will pay interest semi-annually. This agreement will be tracked through a memorandum of understanding, which will be reviewed and approved annually by council. Administration is recommending the council approve to enter into an agreement with the LBIC. The interest payments could be paid from economic development funds or tax incremental financing.
And with this one, just to describe it, it's to the west of Baumgars and McDonald's. It's that piece of ground that goes all the way through from Business 75 to Holton Drive. We do have a prospect that contacted me shortly after I started here, and we've been working with for a number of months. And they specifically want to be across from Walmart. And the reason LBIC chose to step up and take this on, and I've talked to a developer, is it's kind of taken a long time to move this project forward because we don't have control of the land. And there's a developer that would work with this prospect to develop a retail business for the community. And then there's additional land for other development that would go all the way through, you know, all the way to Business 75.
I was gonna ask, how many properties are there?
There are four
It's
parcels,
gonna be, I mean, I see the sections, but I didn't know if that was ours.
all 4 parcels.
Okay, so there's 4, and then the triangle up against Holton there, is that,
City right away.
that's right away?
Yeah, so we can
it's not,
put a driveway there. We don't
Gotcha.
have an island.
okay, gotcha. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's fair, fine.
No, and the reason for jumping in the middle of this, as Mark was saying, is to move the project along. We tried putting together the seller of the land and the person that's interested in putting in a store, and couldn't come to an agreement, and the seller of the land immediately calls 5 different people and tries to get a higher price, and it's just, you know, land speculators are making it difficult for economic development, so.
It's a good opportunity for the community to create something on that piece of ground.
Motion approving entering into an agreement with the LBIC where the city of Lamar's makes interest payments on a loan secured by the LBIC for the purchase of the Randall DeYoung property.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mark. Moving on to the Weinberg Investments, Inc. request for update of the land lease. Weinberg Investments, Inc. has requested council approve an update of the land lease agreement for Floyd Valley Apartments. The original 99-year lease was executed on December 30th, 1977. A copy of the updated lease is attached. The lease updates include several changes as follows. Number one, assign the existing lease from Weinberg Investments, Inc. to 2021 Floyd Valley Partners LP. Number two, reset the term of the lease to 99 years to commence upon the execution of the document. And three, incorporate the terms of the HUD lease addendum Exhibit C into the document. The lease addendum is requested and required in connection with a mortgage loan insured by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for multifamily projects. Administration recommends council proceed to a hearing. The city attorney is reviewing the document. The lease will continue to require a $1,500 annual payment for the duration of the lease.
So at this point, we're just setting this for hearing. There's still some questions that Jason and I have discussed that we need answers to. So we've started.
All right.
Yeah, so Roger is here. He can kind of explain what their intent is to do as far as their project.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, council, ma'am. Thank you very much for your consideration. My name is Roger Caudron. I'm a consultant working with Weinberg Investments, Sioux Falls Environmental Access, and then also the 2021 Floyd Valley Partnership. The partnership is in the process of refinancing the property. And Sioux Falls Environmental Access is the owner of the building. Of course, you folks are the owner of the property. And just to give you a little bit of history of Sioux Falls Environmental Access, they are a nonprofit organization, a 501c3 organization that is dedicated to providing housing for low-income individuals, elderly and families, and they've got a couple other projects here in the Plymouth County area. There's Kingston Apartments in Kingsley, Somerset over in Holstein over in Ida County, and then also Ridgeview, which is in Akron. They're a nonprofit dedicated to providing housing. Through the course of the process of refinancing, we're seeking a HUD-insured mortgage. The mortgagee will be the Centennial Mortgage Company, and then that'll be a HUD-insured loan under a program called 220. Let me see here. 223F, I believe, is the name of the official term of the mortgage. And so, as a course of that, what we're trying to do, number one, is to get the lease, which is in partner Lou Weinberg's name, together with the owner of, who will be the owner of the building when it's completed, when the process is completed. That'll be the 2021 Floyd Valley Partners Limited Partnership, of which Sioux Falls Environmental Access and Lou Weinberg will also be partners in that partnership. Sioux Falls Environmental Access, as the nonprofit, will be general partner in that limited partnership. The Floyd Valley Apartments, if you're not familiar, is the old Sacred Heart Hospital in Councilman Brunn's ward, I believe, up next to the hospital, next to the church. 59 units. It was was converted from the hospital to apartments in 1977. The tenant rolls today are a mix of market rate tenants and Section 8 vouchers. I believe we have 28 voucher recipients in there today. We're in the process of bringing in 48 Section 8 certificates. There's a voucher program, there's a certificate program. The certificate program is tied to the building. The voucher program is tied to the tenant. We're in the process of bringing 48 units of the project-based certificates into the processes, into the project as well. The 28 voucher residents will be given a choice of keeping the voucher or taking the certificate. Paperwork-wise, it's just a matter of which pocket it comes out of in the HUD pans. We'll be refinancing. The application will go in March. We hope to have approval in June, late June probably. And then the work that we'll be doing to update the property. We have a budget in the financing of $2 million to put into the project as a part of the financing. Prior to June, beginning in April actually, we are going to be working with a fire sprinkler company to come in and extend the sprinkler system from the hallways where it's just down the hallways today. We're extending that into the individual units. That's at the request of the chief shipper, and we're happy to do that. It's a good thing all the way around. And that will be a project that will begin in April, and that's about a $100,000 project that'll start on the front end before the financing is actually even put in place. The term of the mortgage will be 35 years, and it will, the 35 years will start when the loan closes sometime in 2024 after the project's completed. As a course of the refinancing, we've got a budget of about $2 million to put into rehabilitation, including the repair and refurbishing of all of the windows. The windows are historically significant to the building, and we want to maintain that. There's also the fact that because they've been covered with a storm window for the last 45 years since the 1977 rehabilitation, they're really in pretty great shape. And so we're going to they're going to refurbish those and then replace the storm on the outside with a historically, not historically significant, but a historically characterized wooden storm window on the outside. So they will have, in effect, a double pane effect. That's the biggest piece of the $2 million, and sneaks up on close to $500,000 in cost, because there's, I think, 380 windows to replace or to repair. We'll also be revamping the HVAC units in the individual apartments and all of the common areas. We have electrical and lighting upgrades to all of the apartments. The common area floorings and paint and lighting will all be updated. Upgrading the community room, renovation of beauty salon and laundry room, replacing all of the unit refrigerators, stoves, and range hoods for all 59 units. We'll also be renovating the kitchen cabinets and replacing the countertops with new sinks in there, and also we'll be replacing all of the sinks and faucets and such in the bathrooms. And then be replacing pretty much all of the kitchen flooring. The carpeting has been replaced over the course of time as we do turns, and so the carpeting is a mixture of really good now and some that needs replacing, so we'll be doing a little bit of that. So we've got about $2 million. There's a bunch of little bit of other miscellaneous things that need to be addressed to bring this property up to today's codes, up to today's standards for the purpose of the financing. And so as we do this, the finance company that is working on the project will be inspecting, and we have to do everything according to them, with their approval and with HUD's approval as well. With regard to the questions that Mr. Vasura asked us about, first, the term length. I can't commit to anything at this point in time in terms of reducing the term from the 99 years. What I can't, because we have the HUD guidelines in place. And so what we are willing to commit to at this moment, and it's being reviewed by the attorneys, is to find out what that minimum amount is. Typically it would be 99 years, but because we're looking to see if we can come down to the amount that was requested by Mr. Vasura, which would have been the remainder of the existing 99-year term plus the 20-year, option that was on there, or less. And so we'll try to get to the point where we have to have a certain amount of length past the term of the new loan. And we're trying to find out from her what that is. Secondly, on the rent, we are working with, because of the amount of renovation we're putting into it, it's a really tight budget, so we're working with our loan packager to hopefully come up with something that we can both be able to afford and will it be acceptable to you folks, or in some way, shape, and form have some sort of an escalation in there as the project goes on. What I hope to do is over the course of the next week to 10 days before the public hearing is to be able to work all of that out with Jason and hopefully satisfy you folks with that. And with that, I'll take questions.
Yeah, so my questions to Roger were those two things that he hit on, is,
Plus scope of the project, which he also.
yeah, why the need, right now there is 54 years left on the original, plus there was an option to extend 20 more, so that would have been 74 years. So the question is why are you going back out to 99? And then the second thing is, since 1977, they paid us $1,500 annually for that lease of the ground. So I simply asked if we could increase it, because we used to get, the city used to receive taxes off of that property. And then I believe since you've gone to the Section 8 stuff.
Plus the 501c3 being the owner, I would assume.
Yes, it's a provision under chapter 427.1, paragraph 21, I believe, of the Iowa Code for tax exempt organizations with low rent housing.
Yeah, so the city no longer receives property taxes off of that since '07 or somewhere in there. So the question was, can we increase the lease payment then?
So as far as economic impact for the renovations, are you using a lot of local contractors, subcontractors?
We hope to, yes.